And I guess with the offseason too, Amber mentioned in her exit interview that the number one priority was to land Kelsey in free agency again. Just how important was she to your team this year? How important has she been to the Fever? Obviously, the 8 years she's been with the franchise, and how badly do you want to keep her around?
I mean, yeah, she was the number one priority a year ago, and she's the number one priority this year.
Let's get into it, because Stephanie White just said the quiet part out loud. In her most recent interview, she made one thing unmistakably clear: Kelsey Mitchell is her top priority. Not Caitlin Clark, the generational phenom who shattered nearly every record imaginable. Not the player who packed arenas from coast to coast and single-handedly brought national relevance back to the Indiana Fever. No, the focus, according to White, is on Kelsey. And before anyone twists that statement, let's be fair. Kelsey Mitchell is an elite scorer, a veteran, and a player who has absolutely earned her respect. But there's a huge difference between retaining a star and building an entire franchise around one. One move makes you competitive. The other determines whether you're building toward a championship, or barely hanging on to playoff contention. What's shocking isn't just what White said, it's the confidence behind her tone. She spoke as if this decision was made long before Caitlin Clark's ankle ever touched the floor. Now, let's be real. Fans haven't forgotten that when Caitlin Clark got injured, Stephanie White reportedly called it a blessing in disguise. That phrase has stuck with a lot of people for a reason. Many believe that deep down, if you gave Stephanie White true serum, she'd admit she thinks this team performs better without Caitlin Clark. That belief isn't new. It's been building quietly for a while. White seems to view Kelsey Mitchell as the true superstar of the Fever. But when your head coach refers to your generational player's injury as a blessing, it stops sounding like motivational coach speak and starts sounding like betrayal. Let's look at the numbers. Kelsey Mitchell averaged 19.2 points per game this season, a strong showing, no doubt about it. But Caitlin Clark? She was right there, too, averaging 19 points per game last season, along with 8.4 assists, more than anyone else in the league, and nearly 6 rebounds per game. The difference? Clark did all of that while completely transforming how opposing defenses guarded the Fever. One player creates shots for herself, the other elevates everyone around her. Both are valuable, but only one is generational, and we all know who that is. And here's the ironic part. After the Olympic break last season, when Caitlin Clark was finally given full control as the team's primary playmaker, Kelsey Mitchell's numbers actually went up. She scored more efficiently under Caitlin's system than she has this year under Stephanie White's so-called motion offense. Let that sink in. The system centered around Caitlin Clark made everyone better. But instead of acknowledging that, White's acting like the Fever's future is a one-woman show, and that woman isn't Clark. Under Chrissy Sides, the Fever's offense was built around Caitlin Clark's skill set. But this year, White introduced her own motion system, which, despite its name, didn't seem to flow at all. Sure, Kelsey Mitchell still balled out, because she's a natural scorer who can put up numbers under any system, but it's clear that her success doesn't necessarily mean the system works. And when you listen closely to White's latest interview, the tone says it all. Every word is polished, every phrase carefully chosen. When she says, "We're going to continue to build around her," notice what's missing. She doesn't say, "them," not "our core," not "those stars," just "her," singular. That one word tells you everything you need to know before any official statement is released. It's corporate phrasing disguised as basketball strategy, a polite way of saying the decision has already been made. It sounds like one of those business meetings where everyone gets thanked for their contributions right before someone gets quietly replaced. But that logic falls apart quickly. White's justification revolves around loyalty, claiming Kelsey's earned it after years of chaos, losing seasons, and rebuilding. And while loyalty is admirable, it doesn't win championships. Generational talent does. The Warriors didn't build around their longest tenured role player, they built around Steph Curry. The Cavaliers didn't stay loyal to tenure, they went all in on LeBron James. That's how dynasties are built. Loyalty brings stability, but transcendent talent brings banners. Kelsey Mitchell is undeniably a key part of this team's core, a top 3 player for sure, but there's only one true generational force here, and that's Caitlin Clark. Let's not forget, Mitchell and Aaliyah Boston were both here before Clark arrived. And what did the Fever have to show for it? A number 1 overall pick, the very pick they used to draft Caitlin Clark in the first place. That's what makes White's comments feel like a betrayal, not just to Clark, but to the fans who finally started believing this franchise was turning a corner. It's one thing to have internal disagreements. It's another to publicly sideline the player who single-handedly reignited your franchise's national relevance. And it's not just the fans noticing this disconnect. Analysts, insiders, and even former players are all starting to see the same cracks forming. When that many basketball minds start aligning, it's not a conspiracy, it's consensus. The truth is, there's a ceiling when Kelsey Mitchell is your first option. That's not an insult, it's basketball reality. Sure, you can beat teams like the Atlanta Dream, maybe even catch a tired Las Vegas Aces squad on an off night. But when you go up against powerhouses like the Minnesota Lynx or a fully loaded New York Liberty team, that ceiling comes crashing down hard. And here's the thing, Stephanie White knows this. She's too experienced not to understand spacing, balance, and player archetypes. So if she's still choosing to build the franchise around anyone other than her generational point guard, then this isn't about basketball strategy, it's about politics. Something deeper is driving this decision, and that's what makes it so frustrating. Then there's the media's handling of this situation, which hasn't helped either. The questions being asked in those press conferences are nowhere near tough enough. You've got Stephanie White sitting right there. Why not ask the real questions? What exactly was wrong with Caitlin Clark? Why didn't she return sooner from her supposed ankle injury? Why was there no boot? And how did a groin issue suddenly turn into an ankle problem overnight? Ask the tough questions. Ask her directly. If Caitlin Clark had come back, do you believe you could have gone further in the playoffs? Even if White refused to answer, the questions still needed to be asked. And that brings us to the real elephant in the room, the injury narrative. When you start connecting the dots, things stop adding up. Fans notice the inconsistencies, the shifting explanations, and the vague updates. It stopped sounding like a legitimate medical situation and started feeling more like damage control. Transparency is supposed to be a given in professional sports. When teams go quiet, it's rarely a good sign. Silence usually means something's being hidden, whether it's internal tension, front office conflict, or deeper issues behind the scenes. If Caitlin Clark was healthy enough to return and the team still chose to keep her sidelined, that's not player protection, that's control. Compare this to how other franchises handle their stars. When Breanna Stewart went down, the Liberty were transparent every step of the way. When Aya Wilson had health concerns, Vegas was open about it.